Hello, Derek Clapton.
Good day to you, sir.
Stand back.
I made a clap. This
Can't you just use clap as a verb?
Yes.
Okay.
But that would be boring.
Okay.
This episode is like you said before, this is the equivalent of the teacher being like, it's Friday afternoon, we're going to roll in the VCR and the TV instead of doing an actual episode.
But for good reason.
Because Car Week
is now.
Yes, happened, and so we are getting in a quick and dirty Carmudgeon episode.
I showered this morning.
I did not.
So it is quick and dirty. I'm quick, you're dirty.
Yes, okay. Great. So yes, random number generated car reviews, thanks to the machinery that Paulo has created for us. Elaborate machinery.
Yes, that's
from
right.
the spreadsheet.
If you've not seen these episodes before, this is when Paulo, our esteemed producer, sits there with a random number generator, calls out a number, and we go back to our nerdy spreadsheets and pull up the number of the car that corresponds to the number that Paulo pulls up, and read our review, in my case, or recollect his review, in Derek's case, of that car. And we had a couple of fun ones this episode, I feel. Like we had an unwanted surprise Chrysler 200 review. The unstealable car. I mean, if you ever want a car that no one will notice or steal, even if you leave the keys in it, by God, that's it.
Well, with an endorsement like that,
ta-da,
you see what excitement lies ahead.
Yes.
Stay tuned to this, the 109th episode of the Carmudgeon Show. There might be some insights that we want to highlight.
Okay.
Or do you want to do that?
Nope. You make a good point. You have convinced me of my wrongness.
It's the first time that's ever happened.
It's not. Actually, and you're annoying because you have fact-based arguments when I prefer
sort of notional
comedy-based arguments. Whatever's the funniest is what we're going with. Also the most offensive, but I can't say that because we are live on the Carmudgeon Show.
Where nothing offensive ever happens, ever. Has ever happened, nor will ever happen.
All right. Okay. Well, I love that. We are currently, as of right now, coming home from the Pebble
That's right.
Beach.
It's Monday. We're after Car Week.
Mm-hmm. Which means we have to get this uploaded and all done during Car Week.
Mm-hmm.
We hate you. We hate
all
of our
this
listeners.
is a demonstration of how much we love them, actually, that we're willing to go through this trouble.
Again, I like the comedy-based arguments,
sorry.
and you like the logic.
Let me know when you're finished, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. So actually, it's Paulo that needs to rev up his random number generator and give us a number. I am at 2,749 cars, which means technically... Okay, here's the problem. I put 150 miles on a 2015 Chrysler 200S V6.
My condolences.
Okay, hold on. This is perfect. Okay, so I make fun of my friend for his his Chrysler 200 because my favorite Chrysler 200 story, which I don't think we've told on this show, right?
Is this the GTI?
No. So when the car was new, we had, I was at Motor Trend and we had a blue on blue one. That's all I remember. I remember it was V6. It was blue on blue.
That's amazing. You remember the color. You never remember the color of anything.
True. You're right, actually. And the reason why was because it was all blue. The whole interior was blue. And I'm like, this is fucking like amazing. Car companies don't commit to colors anymore. I hate it. And I remember hating it, but thinking, well, at least it's there, right? At least somebody else will love it. And so we use that as one of the support vehicles for Best Driver's Car. And so Best Driver's Car, I think we had 12 finalists with us. And when we take them on Highway 198 and we take them to Laguna Seca and da-da-da-da-da. There's a huge production with basically the whole staff. 200 was one of the support cars. And one morning I got stuck driving it from the hotel to this parking lot of a hiking trailhead / boat launch, like public park. We get there at 5:30 in the morning and I was on the team of finalists. It was me, Johnny Lieberman, and Angus McKenzie, who was editor-in-chief. And the three of us were going to take the three finalists once we decided. We had a big meeting, we decided everything, and then we get in the three finalists, which I remember was a Miata two other cars. I don't remember they were much. Oh, AMG GT and anyway, I parked the blue 200 sideways across 2.5 handicap spots and put it in park and put the keys on the center console right next to the shifter. We had rented the whole parking lot, so I was not inconveniencing many handy cripples, differently abled people, and I left. And like 4 o'clock, this was like 5:30 or 6 in the morning. We rented the parking lot until like 10 or something. My phone rings when I come back to service, and it's like the road test coordinator going, "Where the hell's the Chrysler?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? It was in the parking lot next to all of our other cars." And he's like, "We don't have it." And I'm like, "Well, it's there." And he's like, "Where's the key?" I'm like, "In it." He's like, "Well, we're 4 hours away and you're 2 hours away. So can you guys go back and get it?" Fine. So we drive 2 hours back to the parking lot, and I'm like thinking the car's going to be gone. Like there's no way a car sat here for 12 hours and it was still there. Which led us all to the hilarious conclusion that
it was invisible.
No one would even steal one of these fucking cars, much less buy one. So this has been the joke. And now, of course, a friend of mine has a 200S, and I drove it. I was like, holy shit. First of all, it's stupid fast. It's front wheel drive and 295 horsepower.
Oh, good.
And not 295 like VTEC horsepower. 3.6 liter V6, same V6 that's in the minivan that makes the minivan quick. It's stupid. It's 5.6 to 60. It's so dumb.
In a cloud of tire smoke from the front wheels.
Yes. But it's that one has the 9-speed automatic. So it's like bang, 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 bang. It's like unconscionably fast. And actually, it's a pretty good car to drive. And so I went back through my notes, and sure as shit, I said nice things about it. So I had...
But not the color combination.
No, but here's my notes from back in the day. From that blue car, I put 176 miles on it, and that was July 23rd, 2015. This is entry 1,950. And I said I was rather hard on this car last time, but this one isn't nearly as bad. Some of the body panels actually line up, and there's only one minor rattle in the headliner. The previous car was a total pile of shit. I remember that. Whiny V6 is far too vocal, and shakes the car at idle, but it sounds great echoing off the Jersey barrier at wide open throttle. I must admit, ZHP, a 9-speed, is too long-legged for this all-wheel drive car. The front-wheel drive one has different gearing, especially given the lack of low-end torque. It's mighty quick when on the boil, but you're always fighting it with it to move. But occasionally clunks so severe you might think the powertrain might drop out, but otherwise, a better 9 HP performance than I've experienced in other Chryslers. Not so much in the headroom department. This car is quite avant-garde. In the color department, a non-metallic bluish gray with blue and leather. It's about damn time, even if I don't personally like it. Suspension damping is very good, erring on sporty, but it lost contact with the pavement a couple times. Once hugely when I jumped it about 50 linear feet by mistake. Scraped a ton on the landing. Plural. Landings. It says plural. Decent LCD dash. Overall, not horrible. Then again, I didn't see the MSRP, and I'm afraid to. Anyway, go figure. Sometimes we remember a car being absolutely horrible and wretched pile of shit, and it's not.
Your first recollection of it was shaped by the first one you experienced, which was
I remember that car. I can go back to those notes, but that was a 200C, which is the luxury model. Pretty from some angles, but awkward from others. Typical Chrysler shit build quality. Or enormous and uneven panel gaps. It just went on a whole paragraph of 113 mile rant, basically. Anyway.
Okay. So those were bonus episodes.
That was a Chrysler 200 bonus episode.
And that concludes this week's episode of
No, not so fast. Listen, we have to give our audience something while we're out hobnobbing and rubbing shoulders with the beautiful people.
Or pushing cars that have failed to proceed. Or whatever.
Why you got to be that way?
Nonsense.
What are you driving down to?
Unfolding Citroën.
You're going to be French.
Yes.
I'm Japanese this year.
Yes.
The Honda Beat is back on the road.
Congratulations.
Yes.
After the world's longest timing belt.
I looked it up. It was 6 weeks. When I was younger, I would start a project and wouldn't go to bed until I finished it. And there were many, many all-nighters and many times where I started a car at 5 o'clock in the morning, and finally went to bed. And this time was as I had time, an hour here, an hour there. It was a fairly miserable job because there's not a lot of space, but that's really it. Otherwise, it's straightforward. It's probably, if I had to do it again, I could probably do it in 4 hours, 5 hours. It's not that difficult. The only thing I didn't do is I didn't do a valve adjustment because I can't be fucked. But I did an oil change. I did timing belt, water pump. I did a full inspection, suspension inspection, because there was some weird noise up front, but seems to be fine. I did a visual alignment measured with manually with tape and string, and charged the air conditioning. Threw 134 in it, and it's fucking cold.
Was it not before?
No, it was R12, but there was still some left in there, so we just backfilled it to 134 with the fittings don't fit. They're not American R12, because I have American R12 adapter. Not me, a friend of mine has adapters, but they didn't fit. So we could only get on the low side. So we just pumped it up to 15 PSI while it was running, and I blew ice cold. And I have an air-conditioned Japanese car, mid-engined 2-seat Roadster for my Pebble Beach car this year.
Okay.
And I have no idea where my luggage is going to go.
Yes, you have to put it in the front seat.
I'm going to have to put it in the trunk of your car.
Okay. Gladly.
I hope you have room.
Yes, I was thinking of bringing a bicycle too.
Me too. I would love to bring a bike, but I can't imagine you're going to fit 2 bikes plus all of our luggage.
Maybe I'll put the roof rack on.
You have a roof rack for that?
I have a roof rack that I've put on my GTV6. I imagine it'll fit on the Citroen as well.
I'm sorry. That murder gray color Citroen CX with a roof rack on it would look fucking...
Oh, everyone's putting roof racks on things. That's one of my pet peeves right now is roof racks.
You would have 2 bikes on it.
Yes, that's true.
Anyway. Okay.
Give us a number. Who's starting? I guess give me a number, Paolo, since Jason just gave us 2 Chrysler 200s.
So 2 unwanted Chrysler 200 reviews.
Involuntary. 736. Are we going to do this thing where we both do this? No, hold on. 736. I know how to count. I'm just not very good at it.
You got a good one.
How do you know?
For you.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, mine is 1957 Mercedes 300 SL Roadster.
Shocker. How many of them have you driven?
Silver. Roadsters or 300 SLs
Just
generally?
do a search for
1,
300.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16.
You've driven
17, 18. I lost 2. It was a couple intermediate models here that weren't SLs. So I stopped counting.
You've driven more Gullwing / 300 SL Roadsters than most people drive cars in their life.
Well, like I said, I'm a whore. No, I mean,
Okay.
it's a used car salesman. This is used car salesman.
That's amazing.
We've talked a lot about W198s and how great they are. This one, let's see, silver. This one had European headlights, and I think it had a hard top. It's undated, so that means it was very early. This must have been one of the first 300 SLs that I drove, but it was a silver drum brake Roadster with European headlights. Probably 2013 or something like that, 14.
I love those cars.
I do too. I mean, I have nothing to add beyond what we already have said about these cars, which is that they're just fantastic, amazing.
Okay. My number 736 is a 2009 BMW M3 Coupe with the DCT that I put 416 miles on for a story that we did for Automobile Magazine. Actually, we won a shit ton of awards for this one. It was a really funny hypermiling story. I found 3 cars that had the same EPA rating, 14 city, 20 highway. How I remember this shit. And it was an M3, Infiniti M45X.
Wow.
Or 56X. It might have been 45. Let me see if I drove that car first. No. And then there was a truck, if I remember correctly. And so we had 3 cars, same EPA rating, and I did this enormous loop from starting in LA and then winding up back in LA, I think it was. And it was a mix of country, highway, city, everything, all the above. And I won it with 25.0 miles per gallon overall.
In the M3.
In the M3, which was tough because we sat in traffic for an hour in the morning. But
so
there were
you
a
got
bunch
25 mpg on a 20 miles per gallon EPA sticker?
on a 1420.
Yeah.
But it was all of the tricks. The DCT, so my trick is always go to the highest gear possible immediately and full throttle. So we're 75 to 90% throttle, which is reducing pumping losses because, as we know, part of the advantage of diesels over gasoline engines is diesels don't run a throttle. A throttle actually restricts the engine's air and thus makes it less efficient because it's struggling to get air. So you can reduce or eliminate the throttling losses by just running wide open. You don't want full throttle because you don't want full throttle enrichment which some cars do, some don't. I didn't know. So just you go to 85 or 90% throttle and accelerate that way, and then always stay in top gear. But I was like, I turned it off going like on the highway, these miles long downhills where it's off. I just did 49, 50 miles an hour in the right lane. It was a funny story. If it's still online, because Automobile's gone and Motor Trend took over all of its content and half of it's broken, but I'll see if I can find a link for it. But I definitely have pictures of it. I taped all the seams on the front end of the car. I was badly behaved, but I won.
Because you wanted to win. This is like that thing that Top Gear did where they, what did they do with a Prius and an M3?
Oh,
they drove the Prius as fast as it would possibly go around a lap, and then they just had the M3 keep
Follow
up.
it, yeah.
If I remember, I'm sure they arranged it such because given their agenda, I think that the Prius got inferior economy in those circumstances compared to the E90 M3 or E92.
Unfortunately, there have been lawsuits that have proven that Top Gear wasn't always perfectly factual and would sometimes come up with a story even if it conflicted with reality. And I don't know if that's one of them, but it wouldn't surprise me that thing flat out being completely abused would use
more fuel than an M3 sort of just
although
along.
Actually no, because I have done horrible shit in Priuses and still gotten 30 miles per gallon out of them. I mean, driven like a complete lunatic for an entire tank of gas through city traffic, and you can't. Yeah, so I'm
racetrack is different. Racetrack is different, to be fair.
Have you seen the way I drive in in cities that are in Mexico?
Santa
Francisco.
Yes. Okay.
Paolo. All right. Next number. Paolo passed out. He's so bored.
You said Prius.
2708. Ooh. Okay. This is an interesting one. 2023 BMW 760i xDrive. So it's the current brand new 7 Series. Wow, this thing is enormous. And the only thing bigger than this thing is the fucking enormous paragraph that I wrote about it.
What was the date on this?
February 10th, 2023, this year.
Oh, you dropped by my house in this thing.
Yes, I did. This is a really interesting one because I've been holding the hashtag Cammisa verdict to do a comparison between it and the i7, which is the electric version of the same car, which I preferred. And I haven't gone through the notes already. What I remember was it was enormous, and it was the hood is too high. Oops, I hit the microphone. Sorry, too high, and hit the microphone again, and almost perfectly horizontal because it's a Ghost. I mean, it's a Rolls-Royce Ghost, and you can't see over the hood down sort of below you. You could like easily run over a kid and not see them. And it's a really big problem on crests of hills in San Francisco because you're going up a huge hill that now crests, and you can genuinely see fucking nothing. Yeah. And there were many, many times where I inched through an intersection going, I hope no one's coming because I genuinely can't see them. And then the thing that really upset me the most is backseat passengers can change the mode. BMW got rid of driving modes. There's no like Comfort Sport Plus for that car. There are themes like I don't know, there's one like Relax or whatever the fuck they're called. And it changes all the ambient lighting and changes the engine sound and all the rest of the stuff. But it also changes the fucking brake feel and the gauges. And my backseat passengers were constantly changing the modes. And I thought, this is not okay. That somebody in the backseat, I had a little tiny speedometer in my heads up display and one in the corner of the thing, but no tach, no other gauges anymore. And the brake pedal feel went totally wooden because it was in like happy fucking like pilled out Valium mode. And I think this is so unconscionably dangerous that I don't care about the rest of the car. Fuck
the opposite of the ultimate driving machine.
Yeah, no, there's no ultimate driving machine left. And I got 10.6 miles per gallon out of it.
And what is the powertrain? Is it a turbocharged V12?
It's a twin turbo V. No, 60, silly boy, is now the 4.4 liter twin turbo V8, but with 48 volt micro hybrid assistance.
And it still was 10 miles per gallon.
No, it's 11. It's 10.6. It rounds up to 11. It's a really nice luxury car, but there's nothing sporty left about it. And I am not ultimately a nice 9 or 11 series because it's so big, compromised by space inefficiency, a catastrophe of a UX, and overwrought styling is what my verdict was. Yeah.
Sounds right for modern BMW.
Yeah, some of them are better than other. That i4, some of the new cars are not that bad. I mean, they're not really for us anymore. They're not enthusiast cars anymore, but
we're a long way from 10 best everything.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have a 2708?
I do not.
Okay. Pal, you're going to have to give Derek a lower number until he drives 150,000 more 300 SLs.
281.
0281.
Okay. 281 is 2001 Dodge Viper GTS yellow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Funny that you would put colors in there when I don't ever notice colors and don't remember them.
It helps me remember the car.
Okay.
Otherwise, I wouldn't necessarily remember the car. So yeah, this is a first generation Viper, although I guess it's like first and a half because it's a GTS, it's a coupe. I remember thinking, I remember expecting it was going to be kind of shitty, and it wasn't as shitty as I thought it was going to be. Very long gearing, I remember that, like lots of torque, not revvy, it's not that musical. It's just this big beastly kind of apparatus. But I remember my overall impression of that car was that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Okay. I've never driven one first gen. So
yeah. Apparently there's a big difference between the coupes and the roadsters, the early roadsters too.
I expected to be a truck. I mean, even the last of them they felt like you were driving a slammed pickup truck.
Yeah. And
then at the limit, they wound up being Miatas. They were super playful.
Yeah, I don't know if the early ones are like that. They're more terrifying as far as I understand. I went around one cloverleaf and then I was like, okay, that's more than enough for my. I mean, it has personality. It has character. It's interesting enough. It's it's a good. Depending what you're comparing it against, but yeah, it was entertaining. I wasn't bored. I was interested in the experience.
That's good. All right, mine is June 25th, 2007. I drove a 2007 Mercedes CLK 550 Cabriolet, 25 miles. Lots of scuttle shake, weird engine note, insanely maniacal sounding, but a little hissy. Oh, those are when Mercedes were really quiet, they all would sometimes get a to the exhaust.
Lovely.
Paddle buttons are better than before, hysterically fast and fun, but a Boca Raton cruiser. Like it much better than the last one, though, mostly because of the engine. Okay. That 550 motor was a monster.
It's a 276 or something.
Yep.
M276.
M2 something or other.
Or 73.
Paolo? We've lost him again. 281?
No, we just did
that one. We've definitely lost Paolo. 648. Hopefully the audience isn't as bored as Paolo is. Ooh.
648. 1971, the 14th of July, 2014. 1971 Lancia Fulvia HF Coupe, red. Oh, HF, high fidelity. That's the spicy one. Mm-hmm. I mean, these cars are epically good. Have you driven a Fulvia yet?
Mm-mm.
Nope. It's front-wheel drive, narrow-angle V4. Like the carburetors, you open the engine compartment on the hot ones, and the carburetors are as large as the engine, like dimensionally. Like it's 50% carburetor, 50% engine. So they're like, it's deeply over-carbureted. It's 1.3 liters with like big Webers on it. And so they have this very over-carbureted feel. It's very charming. But they are, you can... Depending on how it's set up, you can sort of cruise along, but the spicier ones kind of don't like that. But yes, this was a homologated rally car, effectively, the HF. So they, this was before the Stratos. This was them reaching the limit of front-wheel drive 4-cylinder cars for rally purposes, because it started as a sort of like, I don't know, small, well, not by European standards, but by US standards, small car that was intended for like regular consumption. And they're like, oh, we could like hot this thing up and go rallying, and it's actually pretty decent. And so, yeah, the HF, which, stands for Hi-Fi, because that was the group of people who were super loyal to Lancia. They are really just hilarious rally cars for the road that are really entertaining.
I need to drive one. I mean, the fact that it's a VR4 right off the bat, like I want to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay. My number 648 is September 17, 2008, which was a very busy day because it was a launch for the 2009 Jetta TDI manual. So that day I drove Jetta Sportwagon, Jetta TDI, like all the different.
And this is when they are putting forth TDI as an alternative to hybridization from Toyota. Yeah. So like, no, we'll get the same number of MPGs, but we'll do it in a more exciting,
clean way.
clean diesel.
Wow, that aged
way.
well. Okay, I like the clutch, the shifter and clutch a lot. It's very easy to drive this TDI. It's also quite easy to stall it, which is a surprise not coming in a diesel. Revs well enough on a blip, but it's completely dead over 4,000. It'll barely make 5,000. Quite different from the CRV diesel, which will pull to 4,700 and then drop a little bit.
Diesel?
Bosch brought in, I must have just recently driven that, a TDI or a turbo direct injected, I guess it probably is TDI because it's Bosch, diesel CRV, and then gave it to me for a week as part of a campaign where they sort of gave, yeah.
But they never sold that vehicle.
They never sold it. The reason why is they could not, and they told me, and I'm so stupid, they're like, we can't get close to the US emissions standards. We don't know how Volkswagen's doing it. That should have been all of our indication that something was up. But they're like, VW has a special sauce. We can't get close. What do you think of this car? And I can read it in a second. But I'm curious to see what my notes were. But I remember liking that CRV a lot and thinking, wow, this would be fucking awesome. It's actually way better of an engine for the US market. All the diesels were. Let me see, blah, blah, blah. Not so much off the line. TDI struggles as we get the car moving. Still, I prefer this to the 2.5 on a daily driver basis. A great diesel engine, even if it's not as good as Honda's, and a great car. Okay, let me find that CRV. CRV. How the hell do I? Pre-production.
Did you include
CRV.
the hyphen?
This is gonna be a
CR-V.
And CRV diesel Eurospec. So this was August 29, 08. I put 152 miles on it. I got 34.5 miles per gallon out of this thing. Steering is accurate. Ride is very good. Shifter is fabulous. Pulls hard right to 5,000 RPM. Lots of lag after shifts and off idle. Unbelievably smooth and quiet even after a cold start. Blippy and easy to rev. So quiet without sound deadening, just in the motor's design itself. Best diesel I've ever driven, but could use a little less lag. City was 26.4 miles per gallon indicated with air conditioning, redlining, every gear, blip downshifts, and cruising in fourth instead of sixth. Quick around town, not insanely fast on the highway, but that's to be expected.
Was it a manual?
Yeah, it was manual. Overall fuel economy was 29.4. Oh, 34 and a half was on the highway. 29.4. For the full tank, I got 33.25. Like, the thing was just amazing. Yeah, so whoopsie.
Well, this is the future that Volkswagen tried to imagine for us, but was unable.
Yeah, because everyone died of asthma.
Yes.
Oops. Sorry. Should have caught that one. Right. 2025. Do you not have one of those?
Mm-mm.
Ooh, E30. 1992 BMW 318 IS convertible. 50 miles on it in 2015. Ooh. Not a winner. This M42 makes all kinds of noises, but no power and has no personality. The front end is so much lighter than the M20s though, and the car changes direction much more willingly. This particular example is a bit tired in the suspension and steering department, but I maintain that the E30 is as much about the M20 engine as it is about the car. Ouch. Yeah, sorry for anyone who's got an M42 engine E30. I hate them.
Well, how are the M10 ones?
I hate them even more. Yeah. They're just as hateful, but slower.
M10, these are the four cylinders,
yeah.
The single cam and the twin cam 4 cylinders.
I maintain that BMW was either tied or above Mercedes at all points in the straight six department from 1970s on.
As soon as they introduced a 6-cylinder, in other words.
With your facts. Yes.
That's not true. Also, they had a 6-cylinder engine that they developed before World War II.
But which was sort of through the 80s, Mercedes 6-cylinders were really great, but BMWs were really great and had personality on top of it.
The Mercedes ones don't have much personality, with the exception of the M110.
The M110's not bad. M104 isn't bad either.
Yeah.
But that's that's kind of details. But BMW's straight sixes are magic, and they defined the experience of those cars. And I think at the same time, BMW made some of the least personable, talkative, interesting 4-cylinders on the market. They're just from the S14 to the M10. The M10 was the engine in BMW 2002, and it is a device to make power for a car that is otherwise wonderful. Like the engine is just present. You can spice them up.
Which is funny because they put 2 cylinders on it and created one of the greatest 6-cylinders of all time.
Yeah, strange.
Two of them, actually, if you include the twin cam version, the M30 and the M88.
Oh, okay, that's what you mean. Yes.
When they made a twin cam
when
version.
they made the
motorsport version.
Yes, sorry, I was thinking of the M20, and I'm like, okay,
No.
yeah, M30 and
M88.
M88. Okay, /S38. 10.
Okay.
Interesting. That's an old one. I don't remember this. Go.
1994 Porsche Speedster, black with sport seats. 964 Speedster. They made 462, I think, of these. So there were obviously, Porsche has made a bunch of Speedsters. The first one was a 356. This was originally to get the car to be as cheap as possible, so that, at Max Hoffman's request, who was the U.S. distributor for a lot of cars that were European, including Porsche, and he said, guys, give me a cheaper Porsche so that these cars can start to approach the prices of British sports cars like Triumphs and MGs. And so they took a bunch of shit out of the car and then created the Speedster, which is now the most valuable version. But at the time, it was the least expensive. The goal was to get it under $3,000, and the car was $2,995. So that was the original Speedster. They got really collectible. And then with the sort of consumption-minded 80s and all the madness around collector cars in the 80s, Porsche then did a Speedster version of the 911. And it was like 65 grand at a time when a regular 911 was like 60 grand or something like that. A regular 911 Cabriolet, I think, or maybe it was the same or slightly less. In any case, the Speedster was similarly priced to the Cabriolet, but again, they took stuff out. They took the bat seats out, lower windscreen, wind-up windows, got rid of the central locking, and in the US, they also had turbo flares. And then they did a third generation of that for 964. Again, the car wasn't really that much more expensive than the regular cars, and that was representative of the early 90s for Porsche when they needed to, be selling. They were basically repackaging the same damn car over and over again to try and move product because nobody was buying any cars in that era. So
unimaginable now. Right?
Unimaginable now that a Speedster they'd be like, well, how are we going to sell the RSs and Speedsters, or we just create the RS. That was the deal with the RS America also in 93 was they're like, okay, it's going to be $54,995 or whatever it is. It was under $55,000 for a 911. It was the cheapest 911 you could buy was the RS because they took stuff out so it could be cheaper. And the goal was to just try and sell 911s in the early 90s. So it's this funny footnote of a particular era in Porsche's history. Their 964 Speedsters are still not that collectible generally. I mean, they're 200 grand. But
welcome to Earth, Derek.
They just their prices haven't changed much in the last several years the way that a lot of other models have, I guess is what I mean by that.
Why do you think that is?
I don't think the experience is that great. I mean, if you like convertibles, it's a better way to, and to be fair, Cabriolet is like 50 or 60 grand and a Speedster's 200 grand. So, they are a lot more expensive, but, a modern Speedster costs more money, but it's, it's a GT3 powertrain, which they were not doing back then. Anyway, these are pretty rare cars. They're all narrow bodies except for like maybe 15 or 20 of them. I think they made wide body ones with turbo flares and wheels and brakes on them, and those are pretty cool looking, but they never sold those, I think, in the US. Those are all European cars. Anyway, I just remember this thing was incredibly difficult to sell because nobody gave a shit. That was a different era.
All right. 1035. August 13, 2010, I drove an Audi A8, a 2011 Audi A8, 5 whole miles. Absolutely spectacular to look at. Small, thin wheel helps this car feel 3 full sizes smaller than the S-Class. Quite quick, but most importantly, the transmission is butter, and the engine is a high-pitched, quiet screamer. Fantastic. Horrible shifter is dangerous. You never know what gear you're in. MMI's interface has gotten more confusing with too many buttons, but the pad is absolutely phenomenal. Steering got on my nerves already with the stupid Audi Drive Select, but what a stunner, and it's big enough in the backseat that no A8L will ever be necessary. Stunning wood and brushed stainless/aluminum accents inside. So as usual, it's an Audi with a lovely powertrain and beautiful, and I hate the way it drives.
Par for the course.
Par for the course. Paolo. 1832. Do you have one this high?
Mm-mm.
I have another. October 16th, 2014, I drove a 2015 Golf DSG 1.8T Mark 7. My word, this feels like it could be a Mercedes. Soft and squishy.
Is this a Mark 7?
Mark 7. Soft and squishy, but incredibly refined and grown up with what is possibly the most rattle-free interior of all cars at the North American Car and Truck of the Year contest. This was at Motor Trend. It is the world's best $60,000 car, and it comes standard with a $35,000 discount. Unbelievable. That's where I use that line all the time. The GTI is the world's best $50,000 car, but it comes with a 50% off sticker. Apparently, I wrote it there first in 2014. Yeah, unbelievable. And I would say that I agree with that today.
The Mark 7.
The Mark 7.0 is...
Yeah, as opposed to the facelift, which got a little cheaper.
7.5 got a little rattly. But the, interesting. Okay. I mean, like, the car immediately before the same day, we drove 50 cars. What a disappointment for the Honda Fit. This can't compete with the Golf or the Mini Cooper. I mean, everything I see right here is like, can't compete with the Golf, can't compete with the Golf. Camry, shockingly good. What the hell was that? There are so many cars. I don't know. MKC. I mean, if I look at the list of cars I drove that week, I drove an i3, a C300, Mini Cooper S hardtop, Fit manual, Golf DSG, Camry XSE, Mazda 6 automatic, Ford F-150 2.7 EcoBoost, Chevy Colorado Z71, Audi Q3, GLA 254 Matic, Nissan Murano, Toyota Highlander V6,
it's just a used car
Lincoln
lot.
MKC 2.3T, Hyundai Genesis, we're only in 2 days, Genesis 5-liter, C400 4MATIC, Mustang EcoBoost automatic, and then Grand Cherokee Overland Diesel, Volvo XC60, C300 4MATIC, X4 xDrive 28i, IS350 F Sport, A3 Cabriolet 1.8 turbo front wheel drive, Jeep Renegade 2.4 Limited, Renegade 2.4 Trackhawk, Renegade 1.4 Sport, Colorado Z71. I'm doing this for a reason. Alpina B6, MKC 2.3T. We're only on day 2. Oh, and that was it. Okay, that was MKC is the one I drove home. That is what it's like to do like a car and truck of the year. Like if that's the reason I take all these notes, because how the fuck could you possibly remember? That's what, 25 cars in 2 days. So yeah, I don't remember any of them. I'm kidding. I did jump the Jeep, and I really jumped the GMC Acadia or whatever that was, the GM one. That was bad. Didn't land well. Anyway, we were
not your car.
Well, we were off-roading. I mean, we do that, an off-road thing and an on-road thing and a track thing and whatever. What's your 561? Ooh.
560.
While you look, I drove a 2008 Suzuki XL7.
Oh, that's the Vitara, Grand Vitara. That's like their version of the modern, the replacement, I think, of the Grand Vitara.
But I said, I didn't realize this thing was so GM. GM key, instrument panel, HVAC controls, nav, engine, you name it. Is this a Trailblazer rebadge? Either way, it's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. And it's loaded. The reverse camera in the rearview mirror is tiny and doesn't do a good job, but otherwise everything works as expected.
Okay. Not a crucifixion.
I don't remember what that car even looks like.
Neither. I don't know that I ever knew. 4th of February 2017, 1961 Jaguar E-Type. Oh, it's a 61 early car. Open 2-seater. British racing green with suede green interior.
Ooh.
Suede is the color name. It's not the material. So it's green leather. It was dark green with green interior.
Okay. So like that Chrysler 200, just with a little yellow green sprinkled on it.
Yeah. I mean, the early E-Types are definitely a unique breed. This car, I'm looking forward at some point to doing a BTS on the E-Type because it is one of the most significant cars of all time, in my opinion. And I would love to explain why, but I'm not going to do that in full length here. But a really incredible car that was the most technically innovative car that you could buy in the world at the time, and it cost less than most other sports cars, like kind of half as much or a third as much as like a Ferrari, and or half as much as an Aston Martin. So they're really important, critical cars to sports carring. And the early ones have a bunch of unique characteristics that are kind of annoying, and this was one of those cars, but they're somehow more valuable because of that. And it was green on green.
Because good cars suck.
Yeah, but it's like there's nowhere to put your feet, for example, and like the hood opens sometimes when you don't want it to.
Whatever.
But it's front hinged, so generally the wind keeps it closed.
Yeah, that's fine.
So yes, that's the early E-Type.
We like bad cars. Follow. Do you have that? Are you go there?
No.
Okay. Uh-oh. This is May 1st, 2016. I had a pre-production 2017 Aston Martin V12 Vantage S 7-speed manual. I put 985 miles on that car. Finally, a V12 Vantage that I like more than the V8. The dogleg is awesome, short, high effort throws, heavy clutch, but positive engagement. Blah, 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 blah. There's a huge paragraph here, but I'm not going to read it. I'd have it in an instant over any other sports car in the market and every single supercar. And that still remains true. That is the one sort of outrageously expensive car that I could still see myself in. I want one.
That is quite the endorsement.
Yeah. We had that car on a dry lake bed. We had that car on a racetrack. We had that car in city traffic. And then we got that car back for best driver's car, and it came dead fucking last. And I still wanted it. And it came in dead fucking last because here's a little bit of inside baseball. Best driver's car and is Motor Trend, and Road and Track has Performance Car of the Year. And actually, if you take the judging criteria, they should be reversed. So Road and Track was really about, Road and Track's P-Cody, Performance Car of the Year, was really about the car that makes you feel great and the car that you want to drive and whatever. So a Miata could very easily win.
Because it's so many subjective characteristics,
right? Which should have been called the best driver's car, because that's what we were really looking at. And then Motor Trends
is more performance.
Is more
figures,
like,
metrics.
Randy was getting lap times and everyone was valuing those lap times, and I couldn't give a shit less. And I'm like, guys, it doesn't matter. This is called performance. This is called best driver's car, and the best driver's car that year was without question that Aston Martin V12 Vantage S 7-speed dogleg goddamn fucking manual. And it came in dead last because it was slowest and blah, 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 blah. And so that should have been called best driver's car. Anyway, that's the one that got away. The one that I still can't afford, but dream about all the time.
Yeah, I really enjoy those cars. Even 6-speeds, I don't mind them.
Yeah, I'll take one, but the 7 was just, it got the S motor with variable valve timing, so much more high rev urgency and stupid short gear ratios. And that's what did it for me. Same overall max speed in gears as a Miata, but with 562 horsepower. And
one additional gear, because that's the difference between Miata top speed and Aston Martin top speed.
Yeah, exactly. Not that I would give a shit. I think it did 202, whatever the fuck. Yeah, it didn't matter. Yeah.
I adore those cars. I think they'll age beautifully. Although, with the Valor, back on the V12 manual transmission thing.
Yeah, but it's that turbo V12.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in that. I haven't driven the Valor. Obviously, I haven't seen one in person. We will probably have already seen one last week in Monterey, which hasn't happened yet, but already happened.
Yes.
But I hope that values of those 7-speed stay consistent, because they're right at MSRP now for a really nice car, which means $200 and something thousand, and I want to be able to buy one. So if they stay steady and don't go crazy, I can have one.
You should do it.
You think I should spend $200,000 on a car?
Yeah.
The sales tax bill on that car alone.
Everyone has a solution to this that they have engineered.
Yeah, they get Montana plates. But this is my problem, is the sales tax bill on the car will be more than I spent on almost all of my cars. It's an order of magnitude greater than I've ever done, and that's not my
shtick.
I mean, sure. What would I rather have? Like money in my bank account, like a 401k, or a V12 Vantage S manual 7-speed? Obviously the Aston. But I also can't, I gotta eat. So I don't know. Maybe I should stop eating. Maybe I wouldn't be so fat. Anyway, okay.
Well, we just solved all your problems.
I'm gonna eat ramen once a week and drive
not in your Aston Martin. You're looking at your Aston
while
Martin.
Looking at the gas pump that I can't afford to use.
Yes, perfect.
All right, Paulo.
Okay, this is the last one.
The last one already?
391.
Oh, 2391 was that Range Rover we just drove. 391. Ah. This is a weird one.
1985 Ferrari Testarossa Monospecchio, red on saddle, 5th of June 2015.
I'm waiting for the date to line up, or the car. We both drove the same car.
Yeah, we We haven't gotten that.
Next time
yet.
we do this episode, we're going to just go until that happens. It's
Or,
going to be, ladies and gentlemen, the 4-hour Carmudgeon episode sponsored by no one.
Yes.
And watched by absolutely no one.
Testarossa monospec. Yeah, so everyone likes the monospecchio. Monospecchio is the single flying mirror on the left side of the, driver's side of the car. This is the earliest form of that car. Aesthetically most pure. It's a kind of a weird characteristic that is, I think, unrealistic or unnecessarily fetishized. Like, to me, there's no meaningful difference between those early cars. Like, they have a few more strange features.
They have center lock wheels.
Center lock wheels. The placement of the odometer is like an interesting one because the odometer is not in the gauge cluster. It's in its own little compartment on the center console. So, like, that's, I guess, weird. But yeah, I mean, these cars are great to look at, not that exciting to drive. This is another car that I think is subject to the tendency for people to lust after a car their entire lives and then buy one and convince themselves that they like it because it's a Testarossa. But if, it's not a hard car to drive, and so that's charming, but it's got long overhangs and the suspension's kind of soft, and it's, just a pleasant touring car. And it doesn't do the things that most people expect a Ferrari to do when they're a child and they're looking at a shape like that. But
it certainly doesn't deliver on the experience that its looks promise.
Yes. Yeah.
It's it's a 7 Series. It's like a 7 Series with good steering and the engine behind you, but it's slower.
Depending on the 7 Series, yeah. I mean, against an E23, it's obviously not slower, but yeah, they're nice to drive. You just can't have an expectation of like thrill life on the edge.
There's no sportiness at all.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make them bad cars. It's just I always have a problem with cars that contradict their looks. Like 850i is the same way. Like, I really love the way a BMW
I don't think it
850i
makes
looks.
that much of a contradiction of how it looks. To me, it looks like a big, elegant sort of touring car.
I think it looks sportier than that.
Really?
I mean, I think it looks
it's so big though.
I know, but it's styled to look. I see your
Aggressive.
point, but it's in the same way that the Testarossa looks like it's like a fucking monster, fire breathing monster, and then becomes just civilized. I don't like the idea of a GT that looks anything other than like a Bentley Conti. Like a Conti, Bentley Continental, those look like Grand Touring cars. They're not compromised in terms of space. Like, you have a little bit of a back seat that's usable. You have a short overhangs. Like, the car has a big trunk, and you want to get in and drive it and use it every day for long distance drives. And you just, like, who the fuck wants to deal with a turning radius the size of New Jersey for, like, in a Testarossa? You can't use it every day. So I think
a lot of people do, but they are like the kind of people who are like slightly unhinged, who are like, I'm going to drive a Lotus 7 every day, or
I'd rather drive an Elise every day than a Testarossa. You can't move in those cars until they're warmed up. You literally can't. I mean, we've discussed this together. I don't think we've discussed this on camera, or maybe we have.
I think we have. The CIS in those cars is really, really wacko, and you think that something's wrong with the car, and then you realize every single Testarossa that has CIS, which is all of them until the 512TR, which went to Medtronic, when they're cold, the throttle is basically not doing anything.
Does nothing.
Like, you just, nothing happens, and then all of a sudden it's 4,000 RPM, and those are your choices. Nothing or 4,000 RPM.
Right. And so, I mean, if I had to leave my driveway and head up my hill, the answer is no. Like, it literally will not go. This is not it's stumbly or it's a little bit cranky or a little cantankerous, so you got to drive around it. There is no driving around it. You just have no choice but to wait till things warm up.
You do really slow clutch actuations and don't touch the throttle. That's the way that we would do it.
But you can't do that up a hill or at a stall.
Yes, correct.
And then you can't accelerate from a stoplight. There's nothing you can do. And that, to me, ruins the idea that car should be everyday drivable. That plus the turning radius plus the scraping and whatever else. And so at that point, make it the shape of a Bentley. So that's mine.
Then you buy a 400i.
Yes, that would work. With carburetors, we would get a 400, so it doesn't.
Or 365.
How are they when they're cold?
Well, it's carbureted. It's a bunch of Webers. It's
like a 400i though.
Oh, they're not great either. But you buy a carbureted one.
Okay. My number 391 is a 2008 Mercedes C300 Sport 6-speed. Which I totally...
What year is this?
08.
Sorry, 08. So this is a W204.
Mm-hmm.
That's the transmission that I need to convert... that transmission bolts up to the back of an M104. So if you ever need to convert an M104 to a stick shift, that's the transmission you need.
Oh, Okay. I don't remember this having a 6-speed available. I quite like this car, though I fear I couldn't own one because it won't let you turn off ESP and the chassis loves to be sideways. It's easy to drive, comfortable, and the right size. I like most of the controls, though I don't like the foot-operated parking brake, especially with a stick. What was wrong with me? Oh, yeah, you can do e-brake slides. And I don't like the display without navigation. Command is too cumbersome not to have any benefit from it. I definitely like the 3 Series better as it just fits me better and the motors aren't in the same league as far as smoothness goes, but the C is great. It was a V6. It was a 3-liter V6. I totally forgot that car came with a manual.
Yep. Very rare.
Well, press car.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this. I love these numbers games.
Okay. We have had plug pulled on us. For this episode.
You can blame this short episode on Paolo, who's over there giggling, cackling maniacally. So next episode will be after we have
our debrief of Car Week. Yes.
Which, if you don't think you're interested in Car Week, hang tight because there's kind of something for everyone. It's pretty. Every year I say I'm not going back, and yet here I am.
No. I mean, if you like cars, it's just absolute overload. So. You should. It's worth the pilgrimage at some point.
Yeah,
to make.
Yep, and it's worth listening to us babble about it next week. Hopefully, we'll have some fun stories.
I'm sure we'll have something.
Okay. Until then, ta-ta. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Carmudgeon Show. This has been episode, and we'll see you for episode
109.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that sounds right. 109.
All
right.
Sure. Bye.
See you.